Here we go. Look at that. It started and we're live, Mr. Crowley. Hello, everyone in Enlightenment Village. I am iKE Allen, Spiritual Director of Enlightenment Village. And tonight we have the fabulous Gary, technology. Tonight we have the fabulous Gary Crowley with us. He was in the first film I ever made, Leap, which took a look at the nature of reality. He wrote several fabulous books, including Pass the Jelly and From Here to Here. Gary Crowley, welcome to hanging out in the village with us.
Thank you, Ike. Just like old times.
Just like
up at my house with a whole bunch of camera equipment.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's a good lesson in everything doesn't always work out the way you want it to, because the footage was terrible, and then we brought you to Colorado to shoot it all over again.
And I just wanted a free trip to Colorado.
And all you had to do was espouse your wisdom to us and the world.
Yes, and not fall in the lake.
Yes, absolutely. So, Gary Crowley, it's almost 10 years later. What have you been up to?
Well, life, the unfolding of life. But for a little while after we saw each other, I played the Enlightenment circuit, and did that for a while. But then apparently the world needed a free to the world, do-it-yourself joint pain relief website to help millions of people get out of pain all by themselves. So I spent 2 years building that, since I had a career fixing bodies and I wanted to show people how to get out of physical pain. And so that took quite a while, longer than you think, like a lot of things. And just, I've never let go of the Enlightenment consciousness interest. And now I'm back with my new website, imaginarygary.com.
Which is brilliant. I love the name of that.
Thank you. It's meant as a pointer to people that, it's our imaginary selves that are blocking this this enlightenment, this awakening that we're all looking for. And so, even though I'm talking to you and you're talking to me, I'm really just looking at oneness, a wonderful example of oneness in Ike. But it's all me oneness, you oneness, not sameness, but oneness. And when, in the absence of a Gary, in the absence of an Ike, everything's just flowing and happening. And there's no problem until an Ike or a Gary stick their nose in there and say, hey, this is wrong. And, I actually know how the world should be running.
Yes.
And then the world says, well, we don't really care. So you can suffer a little if you want, or, if you're having fun being your imaginary self, then I guess you'll do that until you don't. So
until you don't, right?
And for the folks who are so inclined, I'm very happy about chatting about it with them and seeing if we can pop the top on that illusionary self that we human beings seem to enjoy so much, or at least attach to.
So let's wind back a little bit then. So let's go back in time and let's take a look at some of those questions from Leap all those years ago. And let's start with what we always talk about in Enlightenment Village. To Gary Crowley, what is enlightenment?
You repeat that, please?
I did that on purpose, So in Gary Crowley's world, what is enlightenment?
Enlightenment is basically the experiencing of being without the imaginary sense of self, which again leaves you as the present moment experiencing of whatever you want to call it: oneness, awakeness, consciousness, Brahman, whatever you want to call it. Once there's an absence of you, this imaginary self, it's all just an expression of oneness and consciousness. And that's what enlightenment is. And the key to all of this is the most important thing, I think, of if any, just the the first block in the journey, the first step in the journey is to realize that you're already awake. You're already enlightened. You're just, because you're already experiencing oneness as oneness within oneness as you and I have this conversation. You're just either conscious of it or you are not. And so there's really nothing to do except see through what's blocking your conscious experiencing of oneness. And it's a very enticing illusion, thinking we have this separate independent entity that is independently moving through the world all on its own with its separate will and volition. But, non-duality means non-dual, means not two. It means one. So if you are a separate entity, then there's something else, and that's not one.
And yet I think it's so funny, right? It's so funny that we write the term non-duality, right? You acknowledge the two-ness when you're talking about there is no two-ness, right? It's not two. I mean, right, and you talk about the never-ending paradox, right?
Right. So if you, as the expression goes, if you do the math, let's see, there's only one. So that God, there's that one again I'm stuck with. I mean, it's oneness or more than oneness. And the sages and mystics and gurus have been touting for years that they reside in the oneness. And I really do, in my experience, think if, in the absence of an imaginary Gary or an imaginary Ike, that is basically just a bunch of conditioned patterns of behavior that we love in Ike, right? We love those. We love that high energy Ike guy who, sleeps 4 hours a night. I don't have that conditioning, but still, it's all oneness expressing itself in different modes and fascinating ways, but it's one.
And I'm in total agreement with you, and then what's the point? Like, why find out, right? I mean, I understand that in my own experience, but for the listeners, for the viewers, for people that believe they're on that journey, right?
Right.
Why be on the journey? What's the point?
I think the point is, first and foremost, most people, the vast majority of people on this planet and throughout history, are not the least bit interested in what we're talking about, right? Because they are doing their thing,
making the world better,
or they're doing whatever they're doing, but they are in this identified separate self, illusionary it may be, but they are attached to that, and they're having their ups and downs and going through life. And it's an interesting ride. It's fascinating for oneness to have, duality, relativity. We are, even as oneness, you're in the relative experience of things. You're experiencing pleasure and pain, up and down, cold and hot. And so for most, it's like going to a movie. You want it if the movie was just a blank screen of oneness, how interesting is that? So, oneness experiencing itself as and through oneness, I would, and this is all made up, of course, as an answer, but I would think, well, it's trying to have an experience. And for those of us, there's a small percentage of us that the experience is that something's not quite right with with this experience. And so instead of trying to change the outside world to make my experience better, I'm going to see if there's, if there's any things out of whack on the inside, things that I'm a little off on. And as the general spiritual seeker, that's what they're doing. They are trying to work on stuff on the inside to change their experience of the world. Most of the world is trying to change the external world to change their internal experience, which is fine. I mean, we all do that too, to some extent. But I think the point is to have the experience, the experience of living, or the experience of being, probably, if I were to speak for the totality of oneness, which I have no business doing. I think that's it, because I get to, like, do you know Indra's net in Hinduism? Okay, so Indra's net is basically a giant net, like fishing net, with a diamond on each little intersection, and that each diamond gets to reflect and express its own little perspective on the world, and that's the universe. And I get to sit with iKE as oneness, expressing iKE, who I've just loved since I opened my door, 12 years ago. And
I have coffee in my hand. Is that why? Was there coffee in my hand?
There's probably, if there was coffee, then it was love at first sight. Yeah, absolutely. But this is what we're doing. We're all this earth suit, food body, whatever you want to call it, vehicle. It's having an experience through oneness, as oneness, in this conditioned, earth suit, and I get to sit across from oneness giving me this experience. I'm giving you that experience, and oneness gets to have the experience of being. And I think that's the game. And when you step out of the very tantalizing and seductive illusion of your separate self, your imaginary Gary, your imaginary iKE, as we talked about 12 years ago, in a certain way, nothing changes.
Yes.
In a certain way, everything changes, right?
Yeah.
We're the same. We kind of laugh at the same jokes. We kind of like the same food. We kind of,
yeah.
But now I'm not running the show. Thoughts come up and things, and I don't know. I don't have to believe them, because they're just thoughts passing through. And, if I take ownership of them, then maybe I get to walk down that path a little bit and, maybe suffer a little, maybe enjoy myself a little, as a separate self taking ownership of my thought. But it's just thoughts and experiences, and oneness expressing itself as oneness. And it's so much lighter and more loving and more compassionate and more fun. I mean, as I say, and from here to here, near the end of the, now you're on the before you were on the tightrope of life as a separate being, looking down, walking the wire. Oh my God, be careful. Well, and once there's no imaginary Gary, you're on the tightrope of life going, wow, this is amazing. And wow, that didn't go as I expected, but oh well, and that was pretty cool. That worked out. And what's next? Or, who knows? But I'm not running the show, and I basically have mostly the same interests and desires and things. It's just, I don't have to be bound up in owning them, and in a lot of ways, like the books on flow and other things, when you get out of the way, you start, I literally start going, I think I'm going to build a website and start giving, sessions with direct inquiry to individually, break people open, right? So they can have an experience of consciousness of oneness, whatever. So I'm thinking that for about a month, because I've been diving back in to all this stuff again, thinking I have something to offer. And you email me, say, hey, you want to do an interview on enlightenment? And when's the last time you emailed me to ask me to do something? You hounded me for a while, and then you respectfully gave up years ago.
I'm a stick and move guy. I always come back around. I never abandon anyone. I always come back around.
No, but the timing, and actually, here's what's weird, right? So starting about a year ago, people are people I don't know are showing up on my door who've read my book, wanting my other book or wanting me to sign their book. People I talked to 10 years ago as clients, or they're calling me on the phone again, asking me questions about non-duality and asking me where I went, and so it all, and now because there's no Gary in the way, it's much more like, oh yeah, I think that'd be a cool thing to do. Let's do that. I like doing that. Well, I guess I was doing other stuff for a while, but yeah, I think I could really help some people, imaginary people that they may be, but still nice to help.
Yeah, imaginary people, a lot of fun, I often think of my personality as, the toy you get in parks where it's like filled with water and it keeps slipping through your hand and slipping through, right? It's like a balloon filled with water, and right, it just keeps like the water snake sort of thing. It's sort of, let's call it, throwing up all over myself, like post-enlightenment, post the awareness of what is, as I would say, right? I see my personality as like that toy, right? I am awareness, and Isaac or Ike is that, it's that toy, and it just keeps slipping through my hand. When you were talking about, right, you can sort of get caught up in things. So I'm going to get involved, right? I'm going to go back and spend time with my family and be like, ho, brother, this, and like, I still like watching science fiction. I still like some dirty jokes, and I still like, doing certain things and stuff. But for me, I'm that the thing that likes the dirty jokes, or the thing that likes to, eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream or whatever. It's that water toy. It's always moving. And for me, the thing is, right, it's non-attachment. On the other end of being aware of what is, I would say, as awareness, I actually don't, all these years later, it's been, divorce, bankruptcy, shitstorm, I'm that thing. Wow, cool. Ever since then, it's almost like that non-attachment thing is that I can't get attached to things, like, right, I can, like you said, I can dive in, and if something, the girls are 10 and 13 now, and if something happens, I can dive in and I can be in that role. But it's the balloon, it's that water thing, and no matter how invested I get in it, it's not like, right, I'm holding some grudge and I hate that guy that said something to my kid, she's not the greatest singer in the world or whatever, right? Like, I can only get in for a little while, and the universe or whatever, the unwinding chain of cause and effect, it takes it away from me awareness. Like, even if I wanted to get attached, it's been like 8-9 years or something, because I identify as awareness, I just can't hold on to anything else.
And I completely agree, because the experience at this side of things is that when awareness, and in your words, or to me, oneness, is basically colonizing, this vehicle at a conscious level. Yeah, there's still patterns, right? Like I joke, I'm not a 20th generation vegan from India, right? I'm a feisty guy from Boston, right? But even if there's like a little blip of that, it doesn't, like you said, it's all been siliconed away or whatever, it's all
everything is lubed up. Nothing can actually, like, all these years later, I'd say nothing can actually stick. People say, oh, I want to be unattached. Hell, there might be times where I'd be like, what would it be like to be attached to something again for a while? Right? I mean, it's the other end, right? I mean, and I love being on this end, but what a different world to get the idea that I am oneness, I am enlightenment, and inside that space, I can play with things, but I just can't.
But the person who says I can't be non-attached, they're identified as their imaginary self with separate will and volition. So of course you can't, because you're not seeing, the big picture of basically that you're not, and that's how you suffer. Because that thing is a what is not machine. That's what that thing is. That thing is, I know how the world should run, It shouldn't run like that.
Yeah.
And it's still running like that. So I'm still right. And I'm still separate. And it's like, well, you know, when the hammer takes on the anvil, the hammer loses.
Yes.
The hammer breaks.
Yep.
And oneness consciousness, you know, that's what's going on. And your illusion doesn't have a chance over what is, right? Because what is, and it's by the time you experience it, it's in the past anyway, and you're still there, you're still pissed about it. It's like, well, you can't, it's already in the past by the time you're experiencing it, you know, and great. If you're inspired to change things in the future, great. But as oneness, as awareness, it's just flowing through this earth suit.
Right. So like, what are the benefits, right? I mean, people are going to listen to this, they're going to watch this, and right, unless they're madly, feverishly, right, clawing to quit being a lie, let's say, right, or whatever language, right? Unless, right, there's like nowhere to go, and they will burn it all to the ground, right? They'll burn the hypothetical folks, right? Unless someone wants to burn it to the ground and quit being a lie, right? What are, right, the benefits to, right? You and I are goofy, and we're goofy beforehand. But isn't it like, right, isn't everything so much more, like, for me, right, it's even more playful, and like life is so much free, right? Like, what are those benefits? Like, it's so silly. It's so
freedom. Yeah, you know.
Right.
I mean, to me, that was for me back, you know, when I first popped back in 2004. First of all, as a spiritual seeker, and as a pretty intense one for about 18 years before that, it was just a sense of relief. Like, and I've said I probably said this back when we were doing the film. Daf Friedjan, a guy whose stuff I used to read and enjoy, he had an expression that I just loved. He said, you know, frustration before illumination. And I think you have to, at some level, not that you have to, but a common pattern is you finally get frustrated enough that you just don't care anymore. And then you're not attached because you don't care anymore. And then suddenly you know, the switch flips and it's like, oh, thank you. But you have to get to that place. And I know there's some people that, what was it? Tony Parsons, you know, he's walking through the park and in London, and it just happened. But he was also on the journey for a long time. So the water, you know, it boiled there, but I think it was on the heater for a long time before that. But I do, you know, once in a while, someone wins the lotto. They get, you know, struck by lightning, and good for them. But I had to suffer.
I don't know. You know, you look at Eckhart, you look at Byron Katie, you look at, you know, the experience of the two of us. You look at, you know, all those people I've interviewed. The only person I ever talked with that sort of said it was kind of easy, but there was, you know, challenges, was Tim Freet. And, you know, he was 9 years old or something like that, right? So it could be, right, all that conditioning wasn't there. But most people I've dealt with, there's a lot to give up. And you said it, right? It's to get to the point where you don't care when you're free, right? And everyone says, I want to be carefree. And I say, but do you understand what it actually means to be carefree?
You want to be hopeless? Yes, because you do want to be. You don't want to have hope for the future. You just want to be free here.
But you don't care,
well,
right?
You don't even care. Right.
You and I are in relationships, and right, you know, I don't know much about Amber these days, right? But, you know, people want you to care about them. You know, my daughters want me to, and, you know, I do care about them, but I think it's sort of like the word love, right? And special relationships and things like that, right? I care, don't get me wrong. And maybe I'm just saying that for legal reasons, you know, lawyers and, you know, divorce and yada, yada, yada. But, you know, I do things for my children, and I am in, let's say for me, my experience, Gary, is that care has gone away and it's been replaced with inspiration. I'm very inspired to spend time with my daughters. I love my daughters. I love getting them to think. I love being with them, but I don't even think about the concept. Like, care is such a ridiculous concept to me. And maybe it's my interpretation of it, but I'm really carefree. I do things to help a lot of people, but paradoxically, I don't really care and I don't worry and I don't stress. I do what I can do.
Yeah.
Right? We coach the people we coach. We support the people we support. And if they're not interested, I don't get bogged down in it. I just go and help the next little old lady across.
Well, that's what it is. That there's no point in getting bogged down. I mean, unless that's what you're doing, which is fine.
Right.
You know, if as oneness, if that's what you're doing, then I'm here if you need me. But your oneness, expressing yourself as oneness for me to and have that little piece of my experience as oneness, be that, and that, okay. And I'm here if you need me, because I do like helping people. I like helping people out of physical pain. I like helping them out of spiritual pain. And that's just the way I'm wired. I don't think I'm in many, I don't think it's any different than the guy who picks up my trash, and he's helping keep the city clean. Like, this is just what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important distinction, right? It's the old before enlightenment shop would carry water, after enlightenment shop would carry water, right? Like, I think a lot of people think that when one becomes enlightened by whatever name, right, pops, whatever one wants to call it, that it is magical, right? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, there is something magical about it, but the concept, would you agree that the concept of that I am better than anybody else, right? It's it's like a concept that doesn't even exist, right?
I am everybody else.
Right.
Not sameness, but oneness. It's all oneness. So I can't be better.
Right, but you know what I mean? The competition thing, you know what I mean? Because like always underneath, right, when you're a human, right, when you identify as a human, right, you're always jockeying with everyone, right? Parents jockey with kids and kids jockey with you, and you jockey with you know what I mean? But like the very concept of, right, because of the separation and stuff, but it's like people are competing to see who can become more enlightened or go up the intergalactic spiritual thing, right? Like, right, the very concept of being better than or less than anyone else, right? It goes away with the awareness that would be impossible, right? Like it's not intellectual, like you just know it. It's like it's insane to think that anyone could be better or above or a level, or right? I mean,
well, because again, if you're into non-duality, non-dual means one. It means there's one thing happening. So we're all in the one thing happening.
Right. But right, the intellectual, the very concept that there is a concept of separation, right? Like it's gone.
Well, and it is funny though, when you step out of the dream, and other people are in the dream, and you see these separate, often suffering selves, and I mean, you just do what you can for them, and they don't want to hear what you or I have to say most of the time. So I'm not going to torture them with that. But yeah, when you see it, I mean, I don't mean to belittle any human experience, because everybody's doing the best they can, especially when it looks like they're not. But now I lost where I was going. Oh, but it is like when you no longer believe in Santa Claus, and there's somebody who really believes, until they understand there's no Santa Claus, until they understand there is no Gary, there is no Ike. This is just a bunch of patterns oneness is expressing through. And but if you don't see that, how do you can't see it. I mean, it took me a lot of frustration and a lot of years, and basically a year of reading Wei Wu Wei books, just because I liked them, just because I'm crazy enough to like Wei Wu Wei, who no one else wants to freaking read, but I love Wei. And I sat there just in in bliss reading these books, and I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if I got it. I just wanted that pleasure with my cup of coffee every morning. And then because I didn't give a shit anymore, it popped.
Yeah.
And that's the big freaking joke.
As long as you want certain things, right, you never get them. And the moment you give up on actually getting it, my experience is, right, one realizes it was their role.
Right. And that's the big, and this is what Imaginary Gary, right? ImaginaryGary.com, right? The whole point of that is we're starting out. Look, you're already awake. The sages and mystics and gurus have been saying this for millennia. Let's just assume maybe they were onto something. Let's just assume Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta, all these guys, Wei Wu Wei, that just, let's just assume that maybe they were onto something. And let's investigate that. Maybe you're already awake. And what could be, let's look. You believe in this iKE? You believe this? Let's look for him. Let's see if we can actually find him. Because I looked for Gary for a long time and I can't find him anywhere. And I have looked. I've looked everywhere. And if you do that investigation and in your own personal experience, you cannot find this imaginary character that you've been identified with, suddenly there's an opening there to go, well, maybe you're this. Maybe you're the expression of whatever word works for you. Oneness, consciousness, awakeness, awareness, Brahman, whatever. Maybe that's what you are, and maybe that's just pumping through this whole thing every present moment, and that's what's going on. Maybe. But you have to empty, and in my case too, you have to empty that illusion. You have to empty that imaginary self. It has to, it at least has to go into a coma for a while. I don't know if you kill it, but it has to go into a coma. So you can go, now look here. And it's like, oh my God, this is it. And then, like I say, from here to here, which actually some intense spiritual seekers get annoyed at. I talk about the sage who's walking along with his master, and he gets, he awakens, and he just turns to his master. He says, "Oh, is that all it is?" And then he just goes about his business. And I have a lot of spiritual seekers who go, "Well, I don't like that." Because I'm like, well, that's your separate self that doesn't like that, because it wants the fireworks and the stars and the magical powers and the psychic abilities, and I want to levitate, and I, hey, if that was on offer, I'm not saying I wouldn't take it, but it's not on offer. So,
yeah, I'll take levitation. Hey, if they're handing it out, I'm in. Yeah,
I'm going. If I can teleport, if that's on, I'm in. Give me teleportation. I'm in. None of these planes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, right, I still call it the ultimate human amusement park. And I think there's a lot of things to play with down here, right? And I think there's probably magic. I see people do certain things and it's all wonderful and it's not enlightenment, and one's not better than the other. But I think, right, and right then there's interpretation. But, the biggest thing for me about enlightenment was the end of seeking. And I guess that's it. The end of seeking is like another layer to it there for me. But, right, you can't really describe it enough. Like, think of all the times that you're trying to climb the corporate ladder. Think of the things that you've worked so hard for and fought in your life. And if you're a spiritual seeker trying to become enlightened and you accidentally realize that you are enlightened, I mean, all that time I spent, and, of course, I turned it into my career. So, that was good for me. But all that time one spends trying to find this thing, my God, if you can actually find it, there are moments where there are days where I watch like a whole thing of Netflix fill in the blank and stuff, because what else do I have to do? I'm not seeking God anymore. If I want to do that, I can just walk into the bathroom and look in the mirror,
or just sit there and look around.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the big joke. That's the big joke, is it's right here constantly. And it's not that the moment is fleeting. It's that the moment is absolutely persistent and present constantly.
Right.
Oh, I missed. Oh, the moment. You're in the moment. You don't have to do anything. Even if you're thinking of the past, you're in. That's the moment. There's nothing. There's literally, and that's the big joke, and again, I think, most of the planet is not interested in this, but there's a certain percentage of folks that want a deeper understanding, for lack of a better word. And I was one of them. You were one of them. But for me, it was always, more than anything, it was a relief.
Yeah.
Because I was very much, I tried hard. I tried hard at everything, and whether it was school or sports or seeking, enlightenment, I tried really hard. And I'm glad I did, because I do think, while it isn't necessary, I do think putting all that energy in at some level does, if nothing else, it frustrates you into giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, everybody hears the words. Everybody knows the words, right? It's the words like surrender, right? It's surrender, but then nobody wants to do it.
But they think an individual has to surrender.
Right.
And that's the whole joke. Again, that's the joke. There's nobody to surrender. There's the seeing through of this thing that you think needs to surrender. I mean, you need to surrender something that doesn't exist, right? It's like even in my From Here to Here, where I break down that you don't have any free will, any conscious will, that's just a stepping stone to get to the point where it's like, look, this means you don't exist. That's what it means. This thing you think you are is a figment of your imagination. Literally, it's your imaginary friend.
Yes. And who is the you that has this imaginary friend, right?
It's oneness, or awareness, or consciousness, or Brahman. It's whatever you want to call it.
Right, right. It is what it is. And of course, then we lay all these interpretations over it.
Right. It's
awesome.
Yeah. No, and it's part of the grand show, but I forget where we were going, but there was back there. I just wanted to say that for those people who quote, wonder why to do all this, it's like the sense of freedom and freedom to still do the stuff you want to do. You don't have to be some indifferent, stoic, spiritual person. Now, if you want to go do whatever you want, well, it's all oneness. If you're inclined to do it, then it's oneness, or consciousness, awareness, expressing itself in that way. It's like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, look at the people at Cirque du Soleil. There's oneness expressing itself through those people. Like, wow, check that out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they're not sitting here doing this. Because that guy can bend himself into a pretzel. Look at that.
Yeah. Hey, I love seeing oneness come and pick up my trash every week, Yeah,
exactly. And that's the guy. And I'm glad, to be on the other side of it is a relief. And I think what I wanted to say was, some people, I'm sure there are some people who get the big bliss bang parade, the whole thing. For me, it was just, oh my God, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What a relief.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can just relax into life.
So what do you do now? Tell us about what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing in Imaginary Gary Land.
Well, I'm giving private sessions over the internet to people who want to have an experience of conscious awakeness or enlightenment or oneness, whatever you want to call it. And basically I got this a little bit back when I was doing talks with From Here to Here and stuff. When I got a hold of somebody for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, you can drill them down and undo their false self a little bit. But then they tend to come out of it, like literally a minute later, they're asking you a question. You're like, but we were just here. So now what I want to do, and there are people doing this, is I want to take a whole hour or 90 minutes to basically get them to really be grounded in who they're not, so that they can then be open to experiencing who they are, which is oneness. And you can do that and give someone that experience, and then they will have that experience that spiritual seekers go their whole lives or decades without ever having. And that can be a barometer for you as you go along and go, oh, there's like the master chef going, here, taste my sauce. Now you go make it. Well, at least you got a taste, at least you kind of know what you're aiming for. And then I do think like most things, once you have that, you can build on that. And then it becomes like, I do think separateness is basically a habit. Your illusionary self is basically a habit. Yeah. And again, while some people get whacked once, great, and they're forever, not attached to a false self, I think you can build that awareness. And then at a certain point, it goes over and becomes more of a permanent thing. And not that you still can't get poked now and again, because sometimes, these earth suits have some deep conditioning that gets poked, but that's not what you are anyway. So as oneness, consciousness, awareness, with that experience, what I say on imaginarygary.com, on the homepage at the bottom, I said, most spiritual seekers are like a North Pole explorer having arrived at the North Pole, yet not realizing it and still searching for the North Pole. So if you are at the North Pole, anywhere you go from there, you are going further away from where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And that's this game. The game is to go, no, it's all happening here. Now we just need to get the stuff out of the way so you can see that. And again, once you have that one taste, as the Buddhists say, the taste of oneness, then it's easier to get it again, and it's easier to find it again. And then you read stuff or you're attracted to the stuff for hopefully the reasons that resonate with that one taste. And so that's what I want to do for folks. Let's give them a one taste.
Can you explain a little bit about how you, what do you do?
Well, first you give them a sense of what they actually know, of who they actually are. And all you ultimately really know, all I know, is that there's a sense of being. I don't even know that. I used to say that, one thing we can all agree on is I am, but I don't even think that's true anymore. I know even less than before, so it's better. All we can agree on is there is amness. There's a sense of being. So you get the sense of being down, and then you basically introduce them to how their mind works, how it's a what is not machine, how it's a machine that's constantly reinforcing separateness, constantly. And then you start asking them, then we go looking for Ike or Gary or Sue or Paul, who's ever in the session. We have them physically look for this being within them. Where is it? I mean, is it your body? Well, let's investigate that. Is it in your body? Well, let's investigate that. Is it anywhere outside your body? And you literally can't find it when you actually go through. You can't find yourself. So all you're left with is a sense of being. That's all you got, is a sense of being. And then with that as your place of awareness, we start examining, experience and reality and what's really going on. If all you really know about yourself is your sense of being, then what's going on here? What's running everything? What's manifesting everything? Well, you're not, because it's oneness. It's non-dual. You can call it whatever you want, but you're no longer separate, and you have a sense of being. So everything must be oneness, right? And so I'm looking at oneness. Oneness is looking at me. Oneness within oneness experiencing oneness, awareness within awareness, experiencing awareness, whatever word you want to use, consciousness for lots of folks. And then seeing where they get stuck. Oh, you're still okay. You're still thinking. Oh, okay. Well, that's that separate self asking that. What if you? So in the absence of your separate self, take a minute, look for yourself. Okay, so it's not there. We've already done this, right? Right. So in the absence of yourself, what's going on? Oneness. And who's it happening to? Oneness. So what are you? Oneness. Are there any problems when you're oneness? No. There's only a problem when there's a separate being with a what is not machine. For a brain, for a mind, going, well, that shouldn't be this, that shouldn't be, but that's only when you're a separate being. When you're oneness, there's no problems. There's situations that you might want to change. There's situations where your daughter is doing something dangerous where you go, don't do that, or pull her out of the way. Yeah, absolutely. There's situations where you realize, oh, I want salt on my food. So you don't just not do anything with this vehicle, but it's all oneness, so you get to pick. Me and you are crazy enough that we want to sit around and talk about oneness or an awareness all the time with people and really, really love it. And other guys want to go make $1 billion, and other guys want to paint paintings, and other people want to just raise their kids. I don't know. The beauty of not knowing anything is it's really empowering to not know anything. To just know, I don't know, there's a sense of being. And that's about all I got.
Yeah. And, and if it doesn't sound sexy to someone watching or listening, it is pretty sexy. Right? It is pretty sexy to just, and I think that is the thing, right? Because there's no more thinking. Right, it's a feeling of freedom.
It's an experience of being, of a sense of being. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't sound sexy, then that's okay. But it's the best thing I've ever found. It is the sexiest thing I think I've ever seen in my, ever experienced in my entire life, because it's just right. It is everything. When I look back over the years, and I drift back into that persona and stuff. Well, I'll tell you, nothing ever compared to, the awareness, as I say, the awareness of what is, it's just. Because there were absolutely highs as a illusionary separate being.
Oh, yeah.
And there were absolutely lows. But man, struggle it's just, and to get the same thing done without an imaginary self, it's like, yeah, just doing that. I got 2 15-and-a-half-year-old dogs that I'm taking out twice a night in the middle of the night because they're now basically puppies again. If I was a separate self, I'd be really annoyed and pissed off. I don't know. I even laugh at myself now. I'm like, God, I'm glad this is now and not when I was 25, because I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed now. I'd be pissed in the morning. I'd be wondering, I'm just like, okay, let's go outside. No, I didn't sleep much at all last night. No.
Yeah, everything becomes smooth. It's sort of like, right, life is like this when you think you're a body, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's not a flat line, but it's more of a light, gentle wave. It's the ocean, nice, mellow ocean waves coming in.
Yeah. I have one very financially successful but very stressed client of mine who just said to me one day, he said, God, you have such a low beta, meaning, because he is boom, boom, boom. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
If people want it, though, it's there for them. And if people, how they don't want it, because they're just not really doing anything to get it. They're wrapped up. There are people, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's great when people are wrapped up in their drama, and they love drama, and they love they pretend like they're trying to solve things, but they secretly always want something to be wrong, and they just love it, and they're always looking for the next thing to be wrong, or the next thing to be exciting, or the next thing to be da-da-da. And that's just not me. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that way.
They know they're alive.
Yeah, right? It is exciting. But at 48, I'm kind of into this.
Yeah. You know? And, let's see, do I ever, I mean, I get a few, but like the bad stuff, it's like, oh, that was great. And okay, well,
Right, it's a visit. It's a short visit to, if something happens with one of the girls or our 5-month-old puppy or something, I'm in action, but I don't get wrapped up in it and say, now I'm going to live here. I just go right back here the moment I can. And it's that, I can't hold on to drama. I can't hold on to anxiety. I can't hold on to feelings that aren't peaceful.
And just to be a pain in the butt, it's because there's no you there to hold on. So it's not that you can, it's that you're not there. So it just goes. It's like a, it's like a storm, a thought storm comes and it goes, because I'm not going, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's like, oh, okay. And there's that. And, and I just think when there's, in the absence of a Gary, in the absence of an Ike, an imaginary Ike and an imaginary Gary, they never existed in the first place, but in their absence, I don't know, you're just the experiencing of, for you, the word awareness, for me, oneness. I get to sit here with oneness, having a great chat with Ike as oneness. I don't know. I wouldn't really want to be doing anything else, and so that's, yeah. So the game, Imaginary Gary, is to, if I can be deluded into, saving some people decades of spiritual suffering and seeking, but even though that's not true, because people are going to, they're doing whatever they're doing, which is great. But for the people who show up to go, oh no, you're like, let's be dead clear, you're already awake. And we're just going to take an hour or an hour and a half, and we're going to clear away what's in the way you see in that, and go there. And even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes, if you get that's not for nothing. That stays with you.
Yeah, you get to keep it.
Yeah. And then I do think then you can build on it. I just see constantly. And even when I was doing, and this is maybe one of the reasons I kind of started doing other things after doing lectures for my books and everything, is you just see people asking questions from the position of the separate self. And in a group, like, I think groups are great, and they're fun, and you get exposed to lots of people who are into what you're into. But to just be able to drill down with someone and not let them, no, okay, no, and then to have that experience and to get that is I think it's so doable, yet so rare, and I'm not claiming to be anywhere close to like Ramana Maharshi in if there are levels, whatever level he was. I'm not even, but to have people sitting around going, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? When they don't know, they need to basically turn it upside down to understand that question properly. You can sit there for 30 years saying, who am I?
But you comparing yourself.
I'm not comparing myself.
But you know what I mean? Like, it really is right. It's I'd say the less there is to us, the more helpful we can be to other people. Yeah. Right.
No, like, I know less now than I did 12 years ago when we were doing our movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug Stevenson, this guy that does story, he focuses on, helping you write your story and stuff. He says safe is a very dangerous place to be. And in the world of spirituality, let's put it all together just for the heck of it. Saying that knowledge can be a very dangerous place to be, because I was out there traveling all the time and stuff, and right, people say, well, A Course in Miracles says this, and Buddha says this, and da da da, right? And I think it's great to reference those as pointers, and it can be very dangerous to get a degree in enlightenment when enlightenment is sort of this, in my direct experience, right? It's the stripping away of everything and realizing I don't know a effing thing. That's enlightenment. I don't really freaking know anything.
I know that there's a sense of being. That's what I know.
Right. And everything else is a big charade. It's the Wizard of Oz.
And it's all, I remember Ramesh Balsekar, he was great at constantly saying, okay, this is a concept. This isn't real. And he was just, and I appreciated that, okay, yeah, I have this theory and this, but it's just a concept. It's not the thing.
Yes.
So let's not get all, that's why I'm like, call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it. Whatever resonates with that earth suit of yours, fantastic. If it helps us see through the imaginary self, the false self that's blocking, your experience of oneness, awareness, whatever, then great. Call it Sam. I don't care.
Right. People will become inspired to hire you to help them figure out that neither one of you are actually there.
Well, we're there as oneness. Yes. No separate entities with separate will and volition. We're actually there. We were just celebrating each other as oneness. And if they get that out of it, Ike, then that's fantastic, because that's all I want.
Yeah. Yeah. That is all I want. That is I dabble in a lot of things, but just like you said, boy, there's nothing like talking about being in the awareness of what is, as I language it, talking about it, talking with other people about it, especially talking with people that are actually there, right? Like I can be with someone, I can see that everyone is, and then I can see those that are aware that
right. There's those that are conscious of it and those that aren't. And yeah. And
yes.
And I agree. And even when I say that's all I want, I should, to be a pain in the butt, that's all I as oneness want in this expression of oneness, right? Just so we're all clear. It's not imaginary Gary. It's this expression of oneness for some reason through this conditioned earth suit is really into that, helping people pop that imaginary bubble of these false selves. Yeah,
it's so fun to be that one thing, wanting to actually be in conversation with just another version, right? I mean, it's like the great, psychic, spiritual sanitarium would lock me, enlightenment itself, up for my fun fascination with talking with other aspects of myself that are aware of the exact, it's like, it just folds in on itself in the most fabulously, beautifully comical way for me.
And then you're free.
Right.
And then you do whatever you want. You do the same stuff maybe or different stuff, but you're free.
Yeah. I had Jean Trebek on last week, and her and I are very close, and we spent a lot of years in this conversation, and seeing her realize that, what she is or what she is not. And it's just, doing this kind of stuff and helping promote these concepts and helping promote people like you to have people check out spending time with you, because you are a funny guy, you are a laser focused guy, and people could really benefit from spending a little bit of time with you,
Oh, I appreciate that. And it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. So this has been fun.
Well, there it is. So tell people one more time what they can learn about you, how they can learn about you, how they can come spend some time with you. Give yourself a little self-promotion.
Little imaginary self-promotion. Yeah. Well, my brand new website is imaginarygary.com. And it's there to basically set up and have private hour and a half sessions to give people the active experience of conscious awakening, enlightenment, whatever term you want to use. Oneness is the term I like. And you're already awake. Basically what I'm going to show you is that you're already awake. and we're going to peel away. There's nothing for you to do except peel away what doesn't exist in the first place, and leave you what you actually are, and the celebration of that. And so that's what I'm doing, and that's what ImaginaryGary.com is all about.
Well, everyone, check out ImaginaryGary.com. And if you've listened to any of my interviews, you know I frequently reference Gary Crowley in my interviews. He's one of my favorite people. So, Gary, thanks for being with us tonight.
Always a pleasure, Mike.
Absolutely. And everybody, have fun out there.